Just a sort of a wrap-up of things that you would say that, based on what we've heard today, we should be going back and saying, okay, these are things we should be doing. You know, we've talked about gaps, but are things that we've talked about, what are the things we've talked about today that as an industry we should take home as things that we should be doing, or certainly putting directly on our radar as pretty immediate considerations? Maybe start with you, Dave.
Well, I think certainly trying to continue to broaden our knowledge of some of the trace constituents of different emission streams that are occurring is something that needs to be done, and does seem to be, you know, high up on the priority list of certain projects that are being sponsored and funded. But I also think it would be important to try and develop tools and information that would better equip design engineers in trying to design proper solutions for some of the issues that are being defined and observed in industry. So I guess those would be the two key things that I would suggest should be done or pursued.
Yeah.
I guess a takeaway that I would encourage is, again, to consider looking at ourselves in terms of the global system, as opposed to a federation of provinces that are currently debating policy or regulation and trying to predicate that on a combination of economic and environmental or social sustainability. Because if we choose to self-define what those criteria and what those system boundaries are, we potentially risk, we have the opportunity to either lead or lag, but we just don't know because we have nothing to measure ourselves against. You know, our current federal and provincial administrations, and I think rightfully so, are very preoccupied with the economy. But I think we've also seen, based upon our experience over the last few years, be it with California or the European Union, if we isolate ourselves with respect to science, and science is used to develop metrics or measurement mechanism against which we measure performance, the globe has gotten together, for example, and resolved, maybe not on an entirely sound scientific basis, but nonetheless, they resolved to create life cycle analysis platforms, for example, by which to measure and evaluate our energy products. And they were using the results of those measurements didn't make us look good, according to them. And we spent a great deal of money and effort trying to normalize things and bring them back to a science basis. And I would suggest that what happened to us as a jurisdiction, to Canada, over the past couple of years is indicative of having to react to something as opposed to being proactive. I would strongly suggest that we try to take our place in the global community and lead the science that needs to be done in order to effectively and accurately measure health, environmental, economic, social impacts, and compel the rest of the world to be as science-based as we would like to be. And that's a way of mitigating some of the risks that we face, and I think it would also go towards addressing some of the comments that we heard earlier. Again, within the global community, watch the regulatory and policy development that's going on around the world right now, and take note of the fact, as I shared earlier today, that Canadian researchers, Canadian service providers, Canadian thinkers, movers and shakers have been identified by these global jurisdictions as globally leading, and they're calling us in to help to affect what their policies and regulations are going to look like and they are then setting about to implement those things. And there is, I believe, a risk that we have to be aware of, identify, and try to quantify. If we land on a regulatory or a policy framework over the next number of years, or that's set for the next quarter or half century of operations here in Canada, that perhaps suggests that knowledge and understanding and wisdom that exists here in Canada didn't have the capacity to fully impact those decisions, and that regulatory framework that we result with having, do we set ourselves up again for criticism, and then these jurisdictions that might even want to consume some of our products, do they use that to discount our products? So again, it can come around to economic risk if we want to just stay there. So I would strongly suggest that we take our view as a component of a big global system, and the degree to which we can benefit from the positions of leadership, and also be aware of the changes that are coming and be ready for them and be ahead of them to the degree we can.
Can I add? I'll try a different tact, actually. I was just thinking of this. Is there a takeaway? One thought that comes to mind is data openness. What am I talking about there?
Yeah.
That has come up a number of times today, from the dispersion studies cumulative effects that was cited this morning in plenary talk, where it's a challenge for companies who are trying to do the right thing and consider cumulative effects when there isn't a central source of emissions data that's easily available to tap into. But if you continue that concept on data openness, ERCB has certain streams of data that are available. Flaring and venting has come up, but there are incomplete data sets that are publicly available. The whole criticism on oil sands monitoring is based around data openness. Opportunities for interesting ideas for dehydrators. We talked about building techno-economic or building business cases for vapor recovery systems, or collaborating among facilities. All these things are best brought forward with open data, and then the legitimate concerns from affected people. Often the best defense for everyone concerned is data openness more than what is current practice. And so, just really speaking off the cuff here, but I think if there's a takeaway, a lot of problems can be solved just by starting with being free with the data, free with the emissions, and then what a province full of bright people and ideas that can start to take things from there.